Hey guys, I'm Andrea and welcome to episode 15 of Careers Are Weird. Can you see me? Is this thing on? Episode 1 was titled, Is This Thing On? And I was referring to the mic. This time, I'm referring to the camera. You guys have been loyally listening for the last 15 weeks, and I've been learning more and more about podcasting, and a big thing has been getting over the fear of video. So yeah, this is my face. This is the face behind the voice, and now this means I've got to comb my hair and stop interviewing my guests in my pajamas. But this also means there'll be more content on socials, so get ready to see a whole lot more of the guests and maybe perhaps some bloopers. So yay. So I've got to read some of the submissions because LOL, the tea is piping hot this week. So I got a story followed by a question, and I'll go with the story first. So the story category is my weirdest work experience. I'm just going to read that. The story is, in short, I wanted to resign. I wrote a letter, sent it to my manager. She asked me to chat quickly, and then she was like, I don't approve your resignation. I was confused, and then I told her, I need approval for anything I do in my job except for one thing, and that thing is my decision to resign. I'll do my notice and hand over my work, and then goodbye. Anyway, I spent the next 2 weeks doing handover with various departments and got the right people to sign off on my handover checklist. The last sign off I needed was my manager, and on my last day, she said, no, I'm not signing, you didn't do the handover properly. So I told her bye and never went back. Wow. Honestly, I can't even say I'm surprised. And big up you for looking her in the eye and telling her, I don't need your approval for my decision to resign. And you know what? I'm not even surprised. And I bet the reason for that behavior was because she knew that you were the most productive and that secretly she was passing off your own work as her own. So you resigning basically means that she was about to start looking like a clown to management. So yeah, really happy that you told her that you don't need her permission for that. So good on you for not letting that deter you and for actually still resigning and knowing that realistically, there was nothing she could do about it. So the follow-up to that story was a question asking about my resignation experience. And I had to make some tea for this episode because wow, the memories. Okay, so get comfy, guys. My resignation was an interesting one because it was a small company. I'm talking a team of less than 10 people, very tight-knit. We're a family, blah, blah, blah. And I was there from ages 22 till age 26. So I was 22 when I joined. I was really, young and sprightly, So, resignation story. By the time I resigned, it was because I was bored shitless. That was my main reason for leaving. I'll always say the people were cool, the culture was chill, the office was chill. I maintain a lot of gratitude for this because my first role after graduating university, meaning experience level 0. So I will always maintain some gratitude for that period of my life. But by the time I resigned, it was because I was so bored. And I should preface this story by saying COVID was 2 years of that 4-year stint at that company. And that made it an even more interesting experience. And it definitely played a role in why I stayed so long. Because, quitting during a pandemic amid so much uncertainty it wasn't my vibe back then. It's not something I was prepared to do. So let me break it down and see if we can get some timelines here. Year 1, super happy, learning loads, everything's super cool and interesting. Yes. Year 2, COVID hits, business slows down, but it's all bizarre. It's new, it's different and weird, but I'm still learning things. It's just a whole new way of life at this point. So still happy. Year 3, COVID dies down. It's time to ramp up the business again. I'm ready for something new. I start looking, but I was really stuck in that job hunt because I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. Year 4, I said, screw it, I'm leaving Dubai. I'm going to go home to Jamaica and figure out what I want. So that's the timeline. And then I guess this is my long resignation story. Basically, at the end of January, one of the guys put a 6-hour strategy session called I don't know, business direction framework workshop. A lot of buzzwords kind of thing, but it was a 6-hour calendar block. And I was like, nope, no chance. I do not wish to spend 6 hours in a workshop planning projects for a company I know I do not want to be in for the rest of the year. So before the session, I sat two of the main guys down and told them I don't want to be in this session because I want to resign. I'm bored. I don't enjoy this. And look, no bad vibes, no hard feelings. I'm not going to a competitor. I don't have another offer. I'm just going home. We chatted and whatever. They started to share stuff with me about the plans for the business, floated flexibility about working remote from Jamaica for an extended period of time. And they asked me to go into this business planning workshop and contribute ideas and stuff with the vision that I'd stay to execute. I said yeah, because, well, frankly, it's not like I could just go home for the day. It was in my calendar. I did have to attend anyway. So yeah. But to make it clear, that was a verbal conversation. I did not put my resignation in writing yet. I left that convo with the expectation of a follow-up chat and a counter offer, so there'd be things to consider. Anyway, things continued like normal. No, nothing was said, no counter offer, just business as usual. Waiting, and frankly, they just never came back to me. So, one Friday morning in April, exactly 10 weeks after, because I counted, a whole 10 weeks passed, I sat one of them down and verbally told him I'll be sending in my resignation today, at which point he asked me how much I needed to stay on. Then he said, realistically, you do the work of both you and another colleague, so it does make sense to get rid of them and absorb like 60% of their salary into mine. And I was just like, question mark, what? I said two things. I was like, number one, you've had 10 weeks to offer me more money, come back to me about remote work from home. Number two, don't you dare put someone else's termination on me. So yeah, I declined. I said no thank you. The time for that conversation was any time in the last 10 weeks. Definitely not now that I've resigned. So then I put my resignation in writing about 2 hours after that chat. At the time, I had two bosses, one more logical, one more emotional. That's it, human beings, everyone's different. One of them wouldn't speak to me during my 30-day notice period. And remember, I said we're a small team, less than 10 people. He didn't even show up on my last day to say goodbye. Mind you, this is a guy, I've met the wife and kids, had dinner at their table, played with the dog, etc., etc. And me resigning was not even worth a goodbye. And that's why you guys will always hear me say, your work, your colleagues, it's not a family, it's a sports team. People come, people go, performance is measured, and when you leave a team, no one cares what you do next. So yeah, I finally sent my resignation in writing in April, did my 30-day notice period and left in May, then moved home to Jamaica for June, July, August for the summer, and towards the end of summer, I got the opportunity to come back to Dubai to start my current role at SFS. So my resignation story was actually a very poor experience, but it's one that I have obviously learned a lot from. So things I'm proud of. One, I had a conversation with them beforehand and I didn't just resign out of the blue. And I think that's really helpful when you are in a much smaller team. You don't have that whole global MNC setup. If it's a small team, I think it is worth having a bit of a conversation so it doesn't hit them out of the blue. And I'm not saying to put all the cards on their table and give them a chance to terminate you before you resign. No, but I am saying voicing some things beforehand definitely makes a difference. And things I do differently. I wouldn't let 10 whole weeks pass and let them kind of go back to business as usual ever again. 10 weeks between my initial conversation with them and me actually putting in my resignation was way too long. And I think by waiting that long, I gave them the feeling that I was bluffing about wanting to resign. So yeah, other than the gap between the initial convo and me putting my resignation in writing, I mean, it is what it is. I held up my contractual obligation of a 30-day notice period, and I did a great handover. And I realized that I'm not responsible for the lack of emotional intelligence of senior management. So yeah, that's my resignation story, which brings me to this week's episode, really, which is the fact that your career is your responsibility. I know we are young and it is so easy and tempting to look at what other people who've previously been in your role have gone on to do and base your next move off of that, or think you need to stay at a company for at least 2 years so you don't look like a job hopper, or in your annual review, do exactly what your boss tells you they think is the next best step for you. The truth is, there's no right or wrong way to do your career. If you do 2 months somewhere and then decide to leave, no issues. It's, what's not okay is suffering, because guess what? And I'm going to say this 2 times, hey? Your company did not know who you were before you applied and interviewed. They won't remember you for much longer after you're gone. Okay? And I'm going to say that one more time so you hear me. Your company did not know who you were before you applied and interviewed. They won't remember you for much longer after you're gone. Within 24 hours of you being gone, your access is revoked, your emails have been forwarded to someone else, and that company moves on. And there's a quote that I read, and it's so real, especially about jobs. It's better to admit you walked through the wrong door than spend your life in the wrong room. So yeah, moral of the story for this episode is, if you think it's time to resign, then it's time to resign. And there's nothing wrong with needing to make a change. Sure, it's hard and uncomfortable and will keep you up some nights in the build-up, but it doesn't get easier by delaying it, which I did. Those 10 weeks between conversation and actually resigning, they weren't my best sleep. They weren't my best mental health. It just wasn't. It's so hard. And if you're already at the stage of wanting to resign, chances are you're not doing your best work. You're bored, you're disengaged, you're frustrated. And whilst we know careers are weird and you'll have various emotions through the whole thing, one of the things that makes careers weird are the changes and the massive leaps that we make throughout them. Now, no one is working at one company from age 18 to retirement anymore. You will have resignations throughout your career, and you can only control yourself, not the reaction of others. How they treat you when you leave says more about them, and it's none of your business. But 4 things I'd say for your resignation. Number 1, whatever happens, document everything in writing. When you send your resignation, CC in your personal email so you always have a copy in case some awful boss pretends that they never received it. Number 2, do the right thing. Plan your resignation in line with your contractual obligations. If it says 30-day notice period, include in your resignation that, as per my employment contract, I am giving 30 days written notice effective today. My last day at work will be Wednesday, 16th of May, 2024. That way, your last day is crystal clear. Number 3, regardless of how cold your manager is during your notice period, still do your handover and prepare the files and CC them in everything that you send to colleagues during this period. Give them so much visibility, it annoys them. Now, this is just me talking now, and this is like a petty version of kill them with kindness. Share so much info with them that it irritates them, but also that they can't complain because it's literally their job. And number 4, this is again very personal, but I think resign on a Friday. It's just easier. If you resign on a Friday, everyone has a good 2-day weekend to cool off before discussions happen. I find this easier for me because imagine resigning on a Monday and then awkwardly walking in on Tuesday. And I know it's not awkward, but I feel like as humans, it's so hard to not feel like it's awkward, even though logically and objectively it shouldn't be. So yeah, I just think if you do it on a Friday, then no one has to see each other again for another 2 days until Monday. Whew. Anyway, that is a whole lot. And I really enjoy doing this because it forced me to reflect on my own resignation and what happened throughout. It is what it is. It happened. It sucked in the weeks that led up to it, but I'm better now because of it, and I'm in a way better situation overall. So yeah, that's it for this week. I hope it was helpful. And if you ever want to talk or share your resignation story, hit the submission link in the show notes or the Insta and LinkedIn bio. Of course, my DMs are always open, so message me anytime because I genuinely love talking about how weird our experiences with our careers are. Last thing, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please follow and give the podcast a 5-star rating. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. It's really cool to see the audience grow every week, and I really appreciate all the support. So that's it for this week. Share this episode with any family or friends that you know who are in their resignation era. And until next Wednesday, stay weird and stay ambitious, my friends.